Hi everyone, my name is Greg Godowski. I'm the director for Region 1 in IEEE. Now we all like to have a lot of people come to our meetings when we create really cool events. And getting someone to come to your meeting is all about advertising. I'm a firm believer in advertising and advertising a lot. But it's not just about advertising. We all like getting emails that have photographs in them. If you just create emails which are text emails, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I tend to ignore them. So I like creating very fancy emails, and you've probably seen some of my emails from across the region when we try to do this. And so some of my emails look like the ones here shown off to the left. And so here you can see an event from the Rochester section. This is an e-notice that would go out to all members. And what I'm showing here is just the event and all of the pictures that I have within the notice that's going to go out. Now, it turns out this is, it's somewhat trivial to do, but there are tricks. And so what this video is all about is how do you do the tricks to kind of get all of these nice pictures inside this notice to create great advertisements. Not only do I do that, but then I use this as the basis for creating announcements within the region that not only go out as e-notices and email, but the same exact thing occurs on our webpage and also goes auto-pushed out to other social media venues like Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter. So hold tight. We're going to go through how I do this kind of thing. And I think it's really important. It's one of those things that once you see it, you go, oh, geez, that's not so bad. But there are tricks to it. And this video is all about the tricks that I use to make these nice advertisements. So hold on. We'll be right back. All right. So here we're going to begin with trick number one. All right. Trick number one is, even though it looks like I created this in the e-notice component of vtools, I didn't. I actually started in the events menuing system of vtools, and that is the key to making everything easier here. So if I were to click on the button here, you'll see the event for that e-notice. And you'll see all of the pictures are within the event. They're all within the event. And they're not necessarily all within those standard vtools items that you typically utilize to create your event. So we'll walk through that a little bit. But what you see here is all of the pictures that are in that email notice come directly from the event. Now, why else is that important? Well, many of you like to create your events outside of vtools, but that's actually problematic because what I'm really looking for is for your event to land on our calendar. And the calendar on the web pages is an auto feed. So what does that mean? That means that once you create the event, the web pages will automatically download that event onto the calendar so that you can see it. So for example, here are the Region 1 web pages. If you were to scroll down that page, on the left, you'll see a button which says Go to Calendar. If you go to the calendar and you go to the November date for that particular meeting that I just showed you, here you can see the Western New York meeting that was just created with that e-notice and that event within vtools. Now, I can't add events to this just willy-nilly. So if you call me and say, Greg, could you please add an event onto the calendar? The answer will be no. And this is an auto feed calendar. I don't attend to it. It does it automatically, if you want to call it that. And so keep that in mind. I start with the event, and that generates the notice. All right, so keep that in mind. All right, the other feature that I use this for is I use it for generating announcements. Now, if you scroll all the way to the bottom of the Region 1 web pages, you'll see the announcements. Now, I create many announcements for different events. So you can see here's the one for the Western New York and image and signal processing meeting that's coming up. So let's go ahead and click on that. And lo and behold, look at that. The thing on our webpage looks exactly like the email that went out. It looks exactly like the event you created, and everything is the same. Why? Because I only created it once. I didn't create it 3 times. And so we're going to walk through that because this is an important feature. This, when it gets posted to the Region 1 web pages, goes right out to Facebook and LinkedIn. So Facebook and LinkedIn point it to here. This looks exactly like your event. It all looks exactly the same. So that's trick number 1. Trick number 1 is to start the process in the events window of vtools, and then you can very easily kind of move it to the other things and have it all look the same. So you're not going to have a web person that creates a web page, then someone that creates an event on vtools, and then someone that creates a different notice. They all look the same. And so this is the beauty of doing it this way, and I'm going to walk you through just how I do that. But we're going to start in, for all of you out there, we're going to start in vtools, and we're going to start in the events menuing item. So we'll see you there in the next set of slides. Take care. Okay, so we're going to start off with the standard vtools event menuing system. And so that is what I have here on the left. Now, when I want to start a new event, I either usually start by clicking on Manage Events, which will show me all of the events in Reach 1, or I'll click on Create an Event. So let's go ahead and just say create an event. And it will bring up the standard web page that includes all of the menu items that are necessary for creating an event within your section or within the area or the region, depending on how it's defined. And now many of you will recognize a lot of the fields here that you're going to have to fill out for an event. But it's worth noting what they are so that when someone asks you to create an event, you know roughly what the fields are that you're going to have to fill out. So for example, the organizational unit. Now, if I just click on that box, it'll pull up the things that I can set up as part of the part of my security privileges for IEEE. But I can create events for the Rochester section. I can also create them for the region, and apparently the MGA Finance Committee, which I wasn't aware of until just today. But in any case, you can select one of these OUs and it will place it in the field as you've seen here. In the primary host contact, I would put my email, greggadowski.gmail.com. You know, if you had a co-sponsor, different section, different society, you would put that here. The contact information would go here. Now, we're going to do a little trick. All right, so normally I might type, well, the contact information is Greg Gadowski, University of Rochester, whatever. You might put the email there, but let's say you wanted a picture there. Many people don't realize that you can put a picture here. And you know what's difficult is when you look at this menu, there aren't a whole lot of pictures. So how do I get a picture in there? And the trick is I use this button here that's kind of odd looking, two brackets side by side, that allows you to edit the source code, the HTML code for this particular field. Now it's going to look a little foreign if you're not familiar with HTML editing, but there are a lot of really good HTML editors online that allow you to edit this in very different ways. So let's take a peek at this and see how it works. So here's what your HTML code looks like. You know, I'm just going to copy and paste that. Copy. Right? And then I'm going to go to a free HTML editor that I happen to like online. And here it is. And you can see if you kind of look, you know, this menu looks a lot more friendly. And it is. But you can edit the code. And now you see the same kind of HTML code in the background. Now this isn't a course on HTML code, but I'm going to talk a little bit about how you can do this. So I'm going to paste the HTML code into the HTML window. I'll switch back. And there's the code. You know, now you can see what would have been in the other field. But now let's say I want a picture. All right, so the one key is that all pictures have to already be on the internet. So where's my picture? Well, my picture might be at the university on their website. But where I happen to pull a lot of people's pictures from, that's pretty stable, is actually on LinkedIn. So for example, you might go to LinkedIn. All right, and then here's my picture. Well, now how am I going to get it in there? I need the link. So the first thing I'm going to do is click on the picture. I get this big picture, right? And now I'm going to right click on the image. And if you scroll down, you'll see there's this one thing called image address. Go ahead and copy that. And I'm going to show you the trick. So I'm going to copy the address. I'm now going to go back to the online editor. And then here you see there's a picture. All right, so I'm going to click where Greg Gadowski is here. I'm going to click on the picture icon, and now it asks for the URL. And I'm going to paste that URL from LinkedIn into here. Hit OK, and voila, there's my picture. All right, so now you can do a lot of things. You can make it, you know, if you want, it can be, you know, you can make it so that it's just above the text. If you wanted the text to the side of it, if you right click the picture and then click on image properties, you can see that you can change a lot of things. I typically make the contact information pictures, I usually make them pretty small, you know, maybe 100 or so. Make sure you click this box here to lock the aspect ratio so it stays the same dimensions roughly, but then I usually put in roughly 100. So now the picture's, you know, pretty small, but that's, you know, that's all you really need for contact information. So I'm going to go back to image properties. I'm going to say, well, okay, maybe the alignment should be left. All right, so now you can see that's going to put the image to the left. It'll put the other text immediately to the right around it, and it'll wrap it. You know, you notice it's pretty tight here next to the picture. Well, you know, put some pixels in there. So let's put 10 pixels in there. So there you go. So now I have a pixel border of 10 on the left and 10 on the right. That's looking better, right? All right, so I'm going to put that in there. But how about a link? How about we go to my profile when someone clicks on my picture? So I'm going to copy the address here at the top. Now I'm going to go back to the editor. I'm going to paste in a link. And I'm going to say new window and say OK. So now you can sort of see the text is here, but I added a line, remember, to make the text go below. So if I delete the line, so now I've got the text to the right, picture to the left. How about one more thing? How about we add a hyperlink to my name so that when someone clicks on it, it sends me email. Kind of cool, right? All right, so now I'm going to highlight my name. And I'm going to go to the button in here that looks like a link. And it's all the way over to here. It's this little chain link thing. Now you're going to say, well, geez, it's got to go to email, not page. So you're going to click this and you're going to go, oh, email. Voila. All right, now I'm going to type in greggadowski@gmail.com. I can put a subject thing in a body, but the one thing that you know when you're putting in a contact information, you're limited to the number of characters you can have in HTML. So you don't want to get too carried away here because IEEE will reject you. But I'm going to just sort of leave it at that. Okay, so now I got a hyperlink here. That's going to send them to email. This one will send them to my LinkedIn site. Kind of cool, right? Now I got to get it back into the event over at IEEE. So how am I going to do that? Well, I'm going to click back on this button here called Edit HTML Source. All right, that's what it looks like. I'm going to now copy that whole thing. I'm now going to go back to the event where I was trying to type that in the first place. All right, that's over here. And remember, here's the source code. Now I'm going to replace it. Watch this. All right, so now all that gobbledygook is in there. I'm just going to say save. And bam, I've got a picture that not only is a picture, but it will go to LinkedIn when someone clicks on it. And if they click on my name, it'll send them an email. How cool is that? That is not intuitive from this window at all. But how cool is that? That's how I started getting these pictures into the meeting notices. And so that was the key to making this work. So we're going to stop here. I'm going to go, we'll come back and we'll talk about details next. Details for your event, how you can make that look cool. And we'll be back in a moment. All right, so before we do a deep dive into the details of an e-notice, I want to just show you, where you can actually edit the HTML. So these are all opportunities where you can create custom content that looks a lot nicer than just simply pasting text in the box. And so if you look down the menu items for this e-notice, or for this event notice rather, you'll see that the description has an HTML box. The header has an HTML box. The agenda has an HTML box. If you click on the speakers have HTML boxes, which is also very cool. All right, so you can add custom content in here without necessarily having to paste those pictures in with the choose the file and have it stored here. I mean, that will work, of course, but it's certainly much easier to create the content here because all the pictures are going to stay stationary, let's say on LinkedIn for your speakers. So why add a picture here that might be deleted later, like next year when you want to pull up this ad and show it to someone? If they still have their LinkedIn picture, it'll still work a year from now. So in some ways, adding the pictures in a different way actually works to your advantage. So again, you can do that for both speakers. It's a really nice feature, and I would go ahead and do it. About the only place where you can't do this is in the registration and payment. Now, sometimes I get a lot of people that were like, well, we want to use a different site to do the registration. And since we want to use a different site, we want to do everything there. Don't do that. Just make the event here and click on external, and you can make the link go to whatever site you want to do to manage the registration. Now, the disadvantages of doing that are that when you add a registration here and you want someone to register for your event, it can check to see if the person is an IEEE member or not right when they're registering. You're not going to be able to do that somewhere outside of the system. And so the downside of that is that if you want to give benefits to IEEE members, good idea, right? If you want to make it cheaper for them to attend your meeting than someone that's not a member, you're going to have to do it this way because you have no choice. I mean, you could do it externally and say, the honor system, okay, type in your IEEE number, but, anybody can type in any number in that case and it can't be checked. So again, here's a nice advantage of using some of these features in events that would otherwise be difficult if you use something else. Okay, in the next segment, we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of creating the details for an event and maybe even the header and footer, what I like to add to show you how it kind of jazzes up the way this is going to look. All right, so we'll be right back. All right, so let's start with the details. So here's what your web page is going to look like if for the event. And in vtools, I'm going to click on details. Instead of starting with the description, let's first talk about the header and footer, because there are a few other tricks I'd like to show you that are kind of cutesy, that are nice, and I've started doing it across the region. And the first is that many of you probably don't recognize or probably know that IEEE has created a web page for branding for all sections of IEEE. Did you know that? I didn't know that at first. So if you go to this web page on branding, you'll see they've already created flags for each of the sections. So you can download the flag here. I'll provide the web page in this video so that you can get to it. But you can download the section flag for your particular section, and it's fairly easy to do. Those flags look like this. You know, you've probably seen them in some of the notices that I've posted. I actually downloaded all 22 of the section flags, and I've put them on the Region 1 web pages so that I can reference them when a section contacts me and says, hey, can you put out this event for us? I usually add your flag onto that, but you can modify the flag any way you want, and there's a download here for brand templates that show you how to modify the flags. But in general, your flag is going to look a little bit like the one here. Now, again, you download those to your computer. The webmaster for your section is going to have to put them on your web pages. Remember, the pictures are not added as pictures, they're added as links. So you're going to need the link for your header in order to put it on your event. So let me show you how that's done. So I've already put in, you know, here's the backside of the Region 1 web pages in WordPress. If you click on media, this is where all the pictures get stored on WordPress. And you can do a search here. So for example, let's say I wanted, you know, I've already made, like I said, I've already put on the pictures for all of the sections. So if I were to type in Rochester, so here you can see the flag from that page for the Rochester section. You know, if you go down here, you can see here's the URL for that picture. That's what I want. So I'm going to copy that. I'm now going to go to that free HTML site that I mentioned earlier. Let's delete off all this stuff. All right. In here, I'm going to put a new picture. I'm going to paste the picture from the link on the website right here, which is the flag for the Rochester section. Well, there it is. Kind of big, right? So, you know, you might change it. I usually make these things, you know, 50, 75 pixels high is usually pretty good. You know, sometimes it's bigger, sometimes it's smaller. You know, it's your preference. So we're going to leave it as 50, maybe. All right, now remember, one of the things that I like to do on these things, I like to put a link on the picture, right? So if I were to go and type Rochester IEEE, and here's the Rochester website. So now let's say I wanted to link to this website. I'm going to go ahead and copy the link. I'm going to go back to here. I'm going to click on the picture. I'm going to go to that chain link icon here shown in the upper right. Click on that. This is a URL. I'm going to paste the Rochester link there. And then the target is like, you don't want it to switch pages when they open this up. So we're going to switch it to a new window. So if someone clicks on the Rochester section, it opens up a new window. They're not going to kind of get distracted from the event. And they're going to still be registering for your event without kind of getting too lost. All right, so that's it. So maybe that's all you want for the header. Maybe you want a custom picture for your event. Maybe you have a nice graphic that you'd rather put in the header as opposed to the section header. You know, your preference, just an example. But again, now here's how we're going to do it. All right, so I'm going to go to the source code. I'm going to copy the source code. I'm going to go back to the event. Now here's the header. All right, I'm going to click on this double bracket thing to get back to the HTML. I'm now going to paste the HTML in there, hit save, and there it is. Bam! The Rochester section, you know, header that I've saved on the web pages. Let's quickly go through that again. So So let's say I want to put in the footer. So usually if you have the region do something for you, I usually put in the region 1 banner for the footer. I have different versions of it. Here I have one that's kind of a light background with blue that you can see, but down here I have another one that's all blue. Let's go ahead. I'm going to copy the URL. I'm going to go back to the HTML editor. I'm going to go back to this mode. Click on the picture. Just change the URL. All right, now you see the region logo, but I don't necessarily want it to go to the Rochester pages. I want it to go to the region pages. So I'm going to copy the new link. I'm going to go to the editor. I'm going to select the picture. I'm going to go to the chain link thing. I'm going to change the URL. So now this one is going to go to the region pages. Okay. I'm going to switch to HTML mode. Click on that button. I'm going to highlight all the HTML, copy it. I'm now going to go back to the footer. I'm going to go down here into the source code, paste it. Boom. There you go. So now the header of this thing will be the Rochester section. The footer will be the banner for region 1. So that's typically how I will do these things. All right, so I'm going to stop here. I'm going to come back in the next section. We're going to talk a little bit about the description and how you might do this. And so there are different ways that I do it, but I use a lot of the same tricks here that I just showed you for the footer and the header. But I'm going to talk about a few things that that help you think about, well, what if it's on a big web page versus it shows up on a phone? And so how do you want to structure that so that the pictures don't look crazy when they go to your phone? All right, so we'll be right back in a moment. All right, so this is one of those things where I keep thinking of tricks as I'm going along, and I remember things that I forgot to tell you. So I'm going to tell you another one right now so before I forget. So if you get to this point and you're the person that makes a lot of event notices for your section, and you're like, man, do I have to do this every single time we have an event? I got to put all this stuff in, do all. You know what? There is a simple thing that you can do. So if you run down this, after you've gotten kind of the base details done, let's say the footer, the header, maybe some of the description that you add for the section, whatnot. If you like that, you can just fill out the fields that have these red stars in them because they're required. You have no choice. And I save a template. All right, so I just call the title Region 1 template. And so fill in the events that you need to fill in. So the category is like a you can always change these later, right? And the subcategory you can set, doesn't really matter, right? Because for every event, you're going to change this. You have to put in a dummy time, a dummy end time, a dummy end, time zone. Keep filling out all the things that have these red stars next to them and get them filled in, and just leave your footers and headers the way you want. Or even if you have a nice format, let's say in your section, you've created a really great format for sending out all of your meeting notices. Well, you're not going to want to recreate that every single time. So go ahead, fill all of this stuff in, same thing for keywords and so forth, and then just click Save as Draft. All right, now it'll come back to this menu, and you'll see, it has all of this stuff on it that may be just fillers for those fields. But take a look at the menu on the left. You can see here that you can do create from existing. So if you find this template on vtools, you can always open it up, create from existing, create the new event, and save it as a different event. That way it's the same every time. You only have to do this once. So let's go ahead. I just take a look and see what it looks like, because we did do the HTML. So let's go ahead and show you what it looks like so far. All right, so here's the header. Here's the default text, which we're going to edit next. I put in a map location in Rochester, and here's the footer. So very simple, template, but this can all be automated somewhat to make your life easier. That's the key. That's the key to this. So if you spend some time and create yourself a template, then the person that's doing this all the time will go back, they'll find this event, they'll hit manage the event, and then they'll say create from existing. So that will basically duplicate the template. Then you edit it and just drop in all of the new details, and it's done. It's so much easier. So I hear of people that they recreate the wheel every single time there's a new event in their section, and the meetings all look different. So if you're doing this for your XCOM meetings, and you're going to do all 12 of them all at once, just create one and then duplicate it and duplicate it and duplicate it and change the venue date, change the venue location if you're moving the meeting, change the if you're going to paste in a Zoom link, you're going to have to change that. But all of those things are changed. You can easily change. But the main point of this is you can create a template that has the baseline stuff in it, the footer, the header, the basic format of the meeting, and so forth. And it just, if your XCOM meeting's at the same place, all you're changing is the time. So remember that if you haven't, figured out how to save this as a draft, it's very useful to do that. So next we're going to do the details within the notice itself, and I'll show you those tricks next. All right, so now let's talk about editing the details of the event. That is, of course, the most important thing that's going to make it look nice. So we're going to look at this template shown here on the left. We're going to edit it. Okay, the first thing that you want to know about when you're looking at the details is that there are a lot of little question marks here. But many of the question marks have important things in them that you need to pay attention to. And one of them is the character limit. So the name here is 256, the contact information 512. If you click on the details, the description's 8,000 characters. Now that sounds ginormous, 8,000 characters. But that 8,000 characters includes all of the HTML code that's in the background. The font, the pagination, the links, all of that stuff is in the background, and it counts towards your character count. So if you think that 8,000 is a lot, it actually can be, depending on how the picture is saved, what directories they're in, all of that stuff counts. And so it actually, is a little deceptive. You think you have a lot of space, but in fact you might not. So you should carefully look at all of the different fields and get a sense of where you're going to put stuff, because there's kind of like hidden space here that you can take advantage of. One is the description's 8,000. The agenda's another 8,000. The agenda is as big as the description. All right, if that's not big enough, then you can go to the speakers, and you can go to the first speaker information, and that description also has like 8,000 characters, I believe. But if you go down below, you'll see there's a biography for the speakers. That's another 8,000 characters. And then you have second speaker information. So there are lots of fields that you can sort of take advantage of. The speakers are not perfect because they're kind of put funny in the event. So I usually save those as, like, if I'm desperate for space, I'll start using those. But I'll usually start off by filling out, sticking with the details and focusing on the description and the agenda, and using those two things. All right, so remember that's a key thing. Now, let's say that someone has nicely constructed a really cool web page that has all of the information on it, but it just sort of seems like way too much, or it's not formatted perfectly for the event. And so often I'll get sent a web page. I'll be like, oh, what am I going to do with this? All right. So here's an example. I have a really great conference coming up. It's in Winnipeg. It's sponsored by Region 1. We've sponsored this meeting for nearly 10 years with Region 7. It's the 10th annual IEEE International Conference on Wireless for Space and Extreme Environments, the YZ meeting in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. And they have a great webpage, right? It's coming up in October. But, they have lots of speakers. It's great. A lot of pictures. They tell you who the people are, where they're from. If you go to the top, there's a nice program with workshops that tell you a little bit about the things you can do in the workshops. The sponsors on the right. There's a ton of stuff. And so, how am I, the organizing committee, the technical program committee, the registration, there's just tons of stuff, tons and tons of stuff. All right, so let's walk through this and try to decide, okay, how am I going to create something here that actually makes some sense? All right, that actually helps. All right, so if I go to the home page, it does at the bottom, it tells you the scope of the meeting and what it's all about. So I might do that. So let's go ahead and get started. So how are you going to get all this information in there? All right. So nicely, one thing you can do is you can just highlight and copy right off the web page. So I'm going to copy this. If you had a Word document, same thing, just copy it. The only difference is if it's on the web, you can copy the pictures, because it's copying only the locations. If you have a Word document, you can't just copy the pictures. You're going to have to put the pictures somewhere on the internet, and then you're going to have to redo it. So if someone has sent you a Word document or a PDF document and says, here it is, it's actually a lot harder than if the web page has been created. But if the web page has been created, life becomes so much easier, because the web page, takes a little time to put together. All right, so let's go. I'm going to go back to the event and watch this. I'm going to just do a paste, and lo and behold, it's here. And the beauty is that it even copies the link. So here's the link to the call for papers. Oh, I didn't have to paste that in. It just went in automatically. Thank you. All right, so but look at this. Got a line next to this. I don't really like that. But I can't, this editor, so actually in order to get rid of that line, I have to look at the HTML code. So I'm going to click on this, and I see it's got some sort of block quote there. So I'm going to just get rid of block quote and hit save, and lo and behold, it's gone. All right, so that's good. All right, so now I'm going to go back, and what else am I going to copy from this website? So let's go back. Well, I don't think I want to start with all the pictures, so I'm not going to do that. What am I going to paste in here that makes some sense? Can I paste the picture in there? I don't know. So I'm going to go back here, and right now I'm going to go to the bottom. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to copy their logo, and I'm going to copy the scope, because that kind of is informational. So we're going to put that in the description. All right, it's there. How cool is that? Now, how many of you, here's another vtools trick. All right, so I teach product development. One of the things I talk about is human factors. Now, how many of you have realized, maybe it's just me, I might have just missed this, because, I look at this page and there's lots of buttons, there's lots of fields. Like the last thing on earth the last thing on earth I'm going to notice are these little corner tabs at the bottom of a field. Who thought of this? It must be an engineer who thought of it, or it must be some software programmer that does web pages every single day and goes, oh yeah, it's obvious. Obvious to do what? Well, the fact that you can drag it and make it bigger. Yeah, that's obvious. I'm going to make the smallest little thing on the web page the most important thing to be able to look at, because most of these things are big. And so here we have a human factors problem where we've now picked the smallest little thing you can put on a web page, and we want 150,000 people that make these be able to kind of look at that instantly and go, oh yeah, that's something I should just pull down. It's real obvious. Maybe this video will help you. Took me a long time to figure out that stupid little corner at the bottom was a thing of pull tab. Maybe I'm just stupid. It's entirely possible. But, so here you can make it bigger, and actually you can make it wider, smaller, bigger, narrower, whatever you want to see it. So here now I can see everything. And, maybe I like this, maybe I don't. I might edit it some more. So it's still not very attractive, but let's go ahead and save it as a draft. Okay, now it saved it. Now, if you were over the character limit, the magical 8,000, which you can't tell how close you're to when you're doing all this, if you're another human factors thing, okay. So you might be close to 8,000. If you exceed it, it will burp and it will give you a big red flashing little sign which says you've exceeded the limit on your characters for this field. And then you go, oh darn, I'm going to have to go back and edit it and make it shorter. All right, it would be nice if they told you in real time how many characters you were using. I guess it's logical, so that you would know if you've put too many in there in the first place before you hit the save button and got panicked because you thought everything was lost. Another gripe. But, take it from me, just save often as a draft until you get it so that you know you haven't exceeded the limit. All right, so let's take a peek at this. All right, so now here it is. You can see my headers that I created earlier in the video. Here's the call for papers from the web page. But okay, let's see if this link works. So, oh, it works. It seemed to work. All right, it went to a new page. It opened it up. Great, that works. Now I'm going to look at the logo. The logo also has a link. You should check all the links, by the way. So I'm going to click on that. This doesn't seem right to me. It goes to the logo. Well, does that make sense? Let's go back to the web page. Okay, so let's just take a peek. What happens when I click on their logo? It shows me the logo. Web page is broken. All right, so sometimes you'll find web page errors that you don't like. It'd be nice if this logo pointed to the web pages. Or pointed to somewhere else. So I'm going to point it to the web pages. So I'm going to copy the link here. I'm going to go back. All right, I'm going to go manage the event. I'm going to edit it. Okay, I'm going to look at details. I'm now going to highlight the logo. I'm going to edit the link here. Again, notice how small this field is. Isn't that friendly? All right, I don't need to see the source code. I'm going to edit the link, which is next to it. And you can see here's the logo. That we don't want that. So we want the website. Okay, so here's the website. I'm going to save it. You might check, when you click on it and you go to the link. Oh, look at that. It's going to open it in the current window. We don't want that. We want it in a new window. I'm not sure why the current window is the default. If we have an event that we want people to register for, why would we ever want them to open up the current window with a new web page? That makes absolutely no sense. The default should always be new window. And if you want a current window, maybe I change it to that. But another human factors thing. All right, just now you're starting to understand me a little bit better, because this default should be new window. All right, but it's current window. So we're going to change it to new window. We're going to hit save. I'm going to hit save as a draft. We're going to view. We're going to click on this. Boom, goes to the web page. It's in a new web page. Yay, very good. That works. Okay, so now you're starting to understand how this is going to work. But now let's do something a little fancier. All right, so let's say in the what am I going to put in the agenda? Well, I could put those workshops. I could put the pictures. Let's go back, take a look. I think in the agenda it might be nice to have some of these speakers. All right, so watch this. I'm going to highlight all of these. Just the speakers. I'm going to copy that. Now, here's the key thing. It's not copying the picture. It's copying the pointers and the links to the picture. It's copying the HTML code in the background, not copying the actual picture. All right, so we're going to go to the tool here, and we're going to paste in the agenda all the pictures, and now you can see the pictures there. And again, there's this little tab here. I can stretch it, make it bigger, but you know what? I'm just going to take this to a different editor. I'm going to go back to that online editor that I had before. Let's clean it all up here. Oops. Just give me a second. Okay. All right, so now it's clean. All right, I'm going to paste. All right, now that's the same thing that's in the other window. At least they made this one a little bit bigger. It's a little bit more friendly because it has the little image icon that you can click on. So I click on the picture. So for example, I can click on the picture and the image, and now I can change the size. I don't like this size, it's pretty big. It's ginormous. So I'm going to make it 150 high. That's a little bit more reasonable. And I'm going to do the same thing on all of these. Okay, now it's getting to be a little bit more reasonably. I'm going to just go through and do them all real quick. Now, the one thing I don't like about events is I don't like it when they're like ginormous, right? When they're like, you got to read through like 6 pages to get through stuff. It's annoying. All right, so let's see what this looks like after I make them all 150. Oh my gosh, it still seems kind of long, right? Right, still seems long. When I see stuff like this, I think of doing something a little different, because it'll shorten it up. So I might do something like this. I might actually copy the picture, paste it over here. Copy the picture, paste it over here. Copy the picture, paste it over here. And then I might just put, try to shorten this up. I think you get the idea. Whoops. Okay, so that's pretty short. I'm starting to like that, right? All right, so now we're going to do the next ones. Okay, I like that. Let's take these pictures out. All right, I'm going to make it shorter. Now, if the fonts are different sizes, don't panic. Just delete them. Put another line in there. Or, you know, if you want it on the next line, I have to hit Shift and then Return, and then it looks like that. All right, so that's looking pretty good, right? Here's another thing you can't see on here. You know, do you see any, like, you know, you can't do bullets. No bullets. No bullets in the agenda either. I don't know. I like bullets. All right, so I'm going to go back to my editor. I'm going to highlight the speakers. I'm going to make them bullets. Oh, well, it didn't get them perfect. So I may have to edit that. All right, I'm going to make bullets. Again, not perfect, so you may have to fix it. If you have separate lines, you may have to use commas. Whatever you do to make it the formatting look good is fine. Don't worry about it so much. All right. All right, now take a look at that. Look at this. Look at this compared to the web page. The web page. Now the web page is nice. Got a lot of pictures. They're all right underneath it. It's not great for a meeting notice. Not great for an email. But this, that's very tolerable. All right. So now what am I going to do? I'm going to do my trick. Remember? So my trick is I edit the HTML code. I'm going to highlight the whole thing. Try that again. I don't feel like it's highlighting. Hold on. There we go. Didn't highlight all of it. There we go. Now I got it. All right, now I'm going to go back. Sorry about that. I'm going to go back to the event. I'm going to go to the agenda where I've got these crazy pictures. Remember, just like before, if you want to really see it, you can pull this down, kind of look at it. But we're going to edit the HTML code now. All right, so here's the HTML code. I'm going to highlight what I've got there, which is long. I'm going to delete it. And now I'm going to paste the HTML code from the editor that I was just using. All right, I'm going to save that. And man, look at that. Bullet points, pictures next to one another. Oh my God. Hey, it finally worked, right? So perfect. You know, if you wanted to, you can center justify the pictures. You can do that all in the other editor. All right, but now let's go ahead and save this. Hopefully it's not beyond the character limit. This is where I do a little pray act to hope that it stays within the character limit. It made it. Yay. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look. All right, so below this is the agenda. All right, so those are a little big. So I might go back and I might edit the text and make it a little bit smaller, but you get the point. That's how I do it. All right, so I would go back to this editor, the Freeline editor here. I would edit it. I would highlight the text here. And I would make the size, it looks like it's a heading, so I'm going to change it to normal. And I'm going to change it to 11. I'm going to do that here again. I'm going to make that normal instead of a header. I'm going to make it 11. Okay, and now I'm going to go back to the source code. We'll copy it. Okay. And now I've got to edit this. Manage and edit the event. I'm going to do edit. Okay, so let's go ahead and now we're going to go to the details. We're going to go to the agenda. We're going to get all the source code that's there, get rid of it, paste the new source code in, save it. All right, so now I've got the smaller text, which is fine. I'm going to say save as a draft. View. There we go. Pretty cool. All right. So yeah, you got to recognize that the pictures go from left to right and the text goes downward, but you know, overall smaller, condensed, going to make a nice meeting notice. So this worked out great. And the beauty of this is if I grab this and make it really small, right, it'll still somewhat work, and then the pictures will just rotate as needed. So it works out great. All right, so very cool. So far so good. So this is looking pretty good. What else would I put on there? You know, usually the only other thing that I would put on there might be if we go back to the web page on the right, you sort of see important information. All right, so I'm going to just copy that. Yay, it's so much easier, right? I'm going to edit this. I'm going to go to the details, and at the bottom I might paste important information. Now it's not perfect, see? So look, I sort of want that on the same line. Again, I don't necessarily want, you know, I don't want this to be super long. Somehow it added a line feed, but it, you know, sometimes it's not perfect. I have to go through, but it's actually not bad. All right. All right, now I've got the important information. You know, if you want to edit it in the other editor, you can do other things like tab it inward, put bullets on it. A lot of those things you can't do in this editor. I don't know why they use this editor on vtools. It's really unfriendly, in my opinion, but I will leave it as is for now. And the other thing that I like to do is I like to copy the sponsors, and you know, you might even copy the other gold sponsors below. It depends on how many you want to put in your thing, but for now I'm gonna do the 4 here. So I'm gonna just copy them. Well, I didn't. There we go. Conference there. Just copy it. Again, it's not copying the pictures, just the links. So I'm gonna go in here. And after this, I'm going to do a paste. And, you know, it's a little big. If you wanted, you can grab the corners. You can make them smaller. You know, smaller. You can delete a line if you want to put them next to one another. So it doesn't take up as much space. Now, they didn't put links on these, which is unfortunate. If they had put links on their webpage on the sponsors, which would have been nice, if somebody clicked on it, they could have went to another webpage. Like you could have put a link to the Region 1 webpage, but is it there? It's not even, you know, so there's nothing here. There's no link on the webpage. So it's not going to copy that link. But if you had a web programmer who put sponsors on the web page, and then those pictures had links on them, it would copy the links too, which is beautiful, right? So then if you know, I wanted to go to IEEE Canada, IEEE Region 1, it would go directly to there on a new page. It would work wonderfully. So if you're a web programmer and you're watching this long video, remember to add the links on your website. It makes it easier for the person creating the notice. All right, so let's go ahead and we're going to save this. And again, we're going to keep our fingers crossed. and hope that we're not above the character limit and see what happens. We made it. All right, so 8,000 characters, not too bad, but I have seen instances where I blow through it and it tells me way too much. All right, so let's go ahead and say view. All right, so here are the sponsors. Very cool. Here's the logo. So, you keep copying stuff from the web page as needed, right? And it's right in vtools. Here are all the pictures, right? So how many of you have created these notices and never had a picture? And so now you can sort of see I've already added, I think, like 12, 15 pictures on this event notice, and it's great. All right, it's great. So now I've saved it as a draft. If I hit manage event, now the big trick. This is like the drum roll, right? I think I need a drum roll in the background. Let's see if I can find one. But if you look, there's another button here to the left, which is like create e-notice from event. Now remember, I've spent all that time creating this nice, fancy event. Nice, fancy event. All right, so if I say create from existing. Oh, that wasn't what I wanted. Sorry, I'm going to go back. The button underneath it. Create e-notice from the event. It's going to create an e-notice from this event. All right. All right, now the key thing is what's in the contents. What's in the contents. All right, so I'm going to show you what's in the contents. Now you can see it's got the header, it's got the logos, it's got the scope, it's got the important dates, it's got the sponsors with all the pictures in it, it's got the date and time, it's got the registration button, it's got the pictures of the speakers in it. Right, there's some flukes in here. Look, it didn't quite get this right, so you might have to edit that. And you might have to redo it. I've noticed that it doesn't handle bullets quite well in this, so you might have to actually edit it and get it to look better. But that's okay. That's still pretty minimal stuff, and you can fix it pretty easily. All right, so here's the other speakers. So I'm gonna just fix this, make it look better. Remember, this is now an e-notice. It's not the event, it's the notice. Okay. A few more spaces here. I'm going to delete it. All right. Now here's, if you hit save, at this point it's probably going to say you didn't select the recipients. So you got to go back up here. You got to send by date. That's fine. You can leave it as a single date. Remember, anything highlighted with a red asterisk means that you need to fill it in. So recipients. So I didn't select a recipient. Actually did. It selected all region 1 and the different types of members from that. And the from category is from me because I'm the one creating the e-notice. And now at the bottom, I'm going to, there are a few options. There's save, scheduled send, and send express. So the first thing that I usually do is I usually say save. So let's go ahead and save. All right, and now this is just a saved e-notice, hasn't been delivered yet. We're going to do a preview to see what it looks like. All right, so here's what that event notice looks like. Not bad. I probably would edit this a little bit more, but for an open session where I'm trying this, I'm okay with this. This is not so bad. All right, so I'm gonna now send myself a test notice. Let's see how it goes in email. So I'm gonna hit a notice. I'm gonna send it. It's gonna go right to my email. I'm gonna swap over to my email. All right, we're gonna wait for it to come in. Hopefully it's not gonna take that long. We'll delete this out. Oh, there it is. It finally showed up. Not too bad. About 15 seconds. or let's see what it looks like. So here's the email that came to me. And you should always do this to see if it looks the way you want it to look. Now look, it looks exactly like that e-notice. Not bad. It's got the sponsors here, the date and the time. It's got a register button. That's very cool. Got the speakers. All working really great. If it, it only gets this small, I probably should look at this on my phone to see how it looks, but overall, not bad. This is pretty good, right? So I'm going to go back to Safari now, and I'm going to take a look at that carefully. All right, now what's the last thing that you would do? I mean, what do I normally do once? Now for most people, this would be the end of the video. This would be the end of the video, but let me show you another web trick that's kind of cool. So if I were to open up my web page and create a new post, okay, here's a new post. It's got the editor. It's got that same goofy editor that's in eNotice. But now let's say I want that event to actually be on my web page. All right, so instead of editing the eNotice, which has, the e-meeting, which has different fields like the agenda, the details, and so forth, I'm going to edit the notice. All right, so watch this. So I'm gonna edit the notice. I'm gonna look at the contents, and you don't see those little two brackets there. They've hidden it in this case, but it's there. All right, so if you go to Tools, there it is, source code. So I'm gonna edit the source code. Here's the HTML code, just like before. Copy all the HTML code, all of it. Copy. Now I'm going to go to my web page, right? Same problem. You don't see the little two brackets. Always look for the two brackets. That's under Tools, Source Code. I'm now going to paste the source code here. All right, it's a lot of gobbledygook, right? And look at that. The eNotice is now saved as a post. And there are ways for me to put it on the front page. I'm not going to do that here because I want to just do an example, but I'm going to give it a title, Wise Meeting, and I will publish it. Okay, and I'm going to do a view post. And here you go. Look at that. This post, which is now on the web page for Region 1, it looks exactly like the email you're going to get, right? And everything still works. The register button, the logos, goes to the web page. So now you understand. It was a long video, but now you understand. You start with events, you create the eNotice, you copy the HTML code, you can create a post so that the event generates the email generates the post on my web page, and that's how I get it all done. So it seems like it took a long time, but in fact, once you kind of get the art of this down, copying the web page into the event is not so bad. If you have a template, even better, right? Because you don't have to do the header and the footer and some of the other key things. And then it's really literally like copy and paste from HTML code from one thing to the next. Those are my tricks. Now, there are a few other things that you can do. You can try, in the web page, you can actually paste in videos. You can't do that in the event notice. Unfortunately, they don't let you do that. But you do it the same way. So on the let's say on this post, if I wanted to paste a video, I would do that in HTML code, same way. So let's say you had a promotional thing that you wanted to put in here. I'm going to go to my YouTube channel, which has a presentation by Ray Liu on your professional home. And you'll see on YouTube, there's often a share button. If you click share, you'll see the two brackets. Now you recognize it by now. I'm going to click on that. I'm going to hit copy. That'll copy the embed code. Now I'm going to go back to my web page, not not the e-notice or email. IEEE won't let you do that in that space. But now I can paste, at the very top I'm going to paste the video. All right, so now let's see what happens to the post. All right, so now there's the Ray Lou video in my post. I'm going to update that. Boom. All right, now I'm going to hit view post. And there it is. I can actually, within the post, I can actually play the video from Ray Lou that's on my YouTube channel. How cool is that? I wish I could do that in events, but they filter out that media type, so you can't do it on events. It would be kind of cool if you could do like little promotional videos that showed up on the events page for IEEE. Might be just like a short clip or snippet from the conference the previous year as a promotional thing. It would be very, very cool, but you can't do it. But you can do it on your webpage very easily. So if you have short snippets, might even be a snippet from a recording, a hybrid meeting that you had where you recorded a presentation and you wanted to just put it on the webpage really quick so someone could see it. That's how you would go about doing it. So that concludes. That was a long discussion about vtools, how I get around some of the limitations of being able to put different media types on the advertisements, not just on the meetings, but on the e-notices as well that you get in the email that make them more attractive, so that when you see it, you look at it and you look at the pictures and you go, wow, that might be a meeting that I want to go to. So remember that creative advertising is always better, no matter what. Always better. It takes a little longer, but if you are spending time to make a really cool meeting, you want people to attend. And so just because you write a creative title for the meeting does not mean they will attend. So make sure you try to advertise as best you can. Spend the time advertising. I can't overemphasize that enough. It will make your meeting much more successful and more attractive to members down the road. So that's it for now. That's my my latest vtools training session. I hope you enjoy it. If you have any other questions, please be sure to email me, and I'll try to help you as best I can. Take care for now. Bye-bye.